Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. So let's get started with the next video. So today in our backend and frontend application, we'll create a Docker file for each of them and we'll run the Docker files. We'll create a Docker image out of the Docker file and then we'll run the Docker image as containers. So for this, you will need to have Docker desktop installed. It's available both for Windows and Mac according to your preference. And the Docker engine should be running in your computer for this to happen. So, yep, let's get started. Here are some important Docker commands you should get familiarized with. There is Docker PS, which lists the running Docker processes. Then Docker build is the command to build an image out of the Docker file. Then you can view available Docker images by hitting Docker images, and then you can run a Docker image as a container. So that's what's happening here. And now let me show you the Docker file for backend and for frontend. So let's start with the backend first. So this is the Docker file for backend. Here, what's happening is here you see this node 16. This is basically a node image. This node image was uploaded to Docker desktop by the official node developers. Similarly, for Java, there is a Java image that is uploaded by maybe Sun Microsystem, the official Java developers. So this is basically a runtime that we are providing to the Dockerfile. Because our backend is in Node.js, we need the node runtime. Then um, inside our Docker environment, we are creating a working directory, a folder structure basically, which is app. Then we are going to copy all the package.json related uh, uh, files from our local machine. And then we're going to copy the rest of the application code after performing an npm install. And once we do this, then we're going to expose the port 5000 because our local machine runs on port 5000. And then we're going to start the application using node index.js. If you remember in our previous tutorial, to start a backend application, backend Node.js application, we first have to do an npm install. And then like that, we'll get the node modules folder here. And then we do node index.js to run index.js. Very similar fashion, we are trying to do exactly that, but this time we're trying to copy the data from our package.json to the current directory inside Dockerfile. So Dockerfile to the Docker container. So it's like the Docker container is a virtual machine that is in the Docker cloud, and this is in our local machine right now. So we are performing that copying into that. So now if I show you the logs, the reason why I'm showing you the logs is because it takes a lot of time to build the Docker and run the code. So that's why I have like done everything beforehand. Here we have Docker build minus t hyphen t backend image space dot. So let me explain what's happening here. We are building so you use Docker, that's the keyword for the commands. And then you do Docker build, hyphen T is the tag, and you tag it with an image name, and we're going to call it backend image. And then we are doing this from the current directory. So that's why space a dot over here. And this took quite some time to build it. It depends on how fast your computer is. Mine is not that much. So that's why. And then we are doing a Docker run, and we have hyphen D hyphen P 5000 backend image. So hyphen D means detached mode. Hyphen P means port mapping. Port mapping is 5000 from our local port to 5000 port in the Docker virtual machine. And what Docker we're trying to run? We're trying to run the backend image that we created right here. So once you run that, you will see that the Docker image is successfully running over here as a container. So if you head to our Docker desktop, it is connected with our local machine. So here we can see backend image. It was created. And then using the Docker image, we are running a Docker container. Now here, trusting Jameson. This is a random name that the container comes up with. I like these random names, so that's why I let it happen. To not let that happen, what you can do is there is a command in Docker where you can, uh, it's like, it goes like this. So you use hyphen hyphen name, and then you give the name of your Docker image. So if you do that, then the Docker image name over here would be your own name. So that's how this is. And very similarly, if we move to the front end, if we move to the front end file, here you can see that we're again using Node runtime because it's a React application. Again, we are creating an app directory. Again, we are copying and pasting the files to the location of the app directory inside a Docker cloud. Then we are performing an npm install, and then we're doing an npm start by exposing port 3000. So once again, we're following a similar structure over here. And if you run your React application locally also, you would have noticed the same thing. It's like you first have to install the dependencies, and then you have to do an npm start. So similarly, here, let me show you. Here I did a Docker build, this time with front-end image, and it took its own sweet time to do that. Then Docker images is one more command I ran to see the available images in my local, my computer. And then I did the detached with the port, and I ran the Docker image by mapping port 3000 from my local to port 3000 on the Docker container for the front end image. So if I again go back to Docker containers, here you can see front end image. So that's currently being run, and it's called Romantic Black. How interesting. And we have the front end image here as well. And they say it's currently in use. So these are the other images that you see here are my old images. As you can see, I did something with Google Cloud Platform, and that's why we have these names like this over here. Anyways, so now a very interesting thing I want to show you all. Now check this out. This is my Docker application. Both my containers are running. And actually, both my containers, if I head to containers, both my front end and back end containers are running on port 5000 and 3000 of my local host. And if you look at my terminal, I am not running my backend front-end application locally. This time, I'm running it from Docker. So if I go to my Chrome, you can see that this is working. Like I'm able to hit the endpoint to get a message from the backend, and I'm able to hit the endpoint to connect my front end with backend. So this time, my full stack application is running from Docker. That's the difference. I'm not running it from my local machine, I'm running it from my Docker. So if I make this container public, then you can pull the same container, and then you will be able to run it in your machine, and you would get the exact same thing. Hello from the backend, you'll get the same running mechanism, and then it would run on port 3000, and then it would hit the port 5000, etc. So that's how Docker is currently working. So in the next video, we will cover things into volumes and more detail into this port mapping, because these two are the additional awesome features that Docker provides. I hope this video was helpful. Thank you and have a great day.